Welcome to the Pirate Broadcast, where we interview interesting people doing interesting things, where you can expand your connections, your community. Kindness is cool and smiles are free. And let's get this party started. And it's another beautiful day for a Pirate Broadcast. And I want to welcome back Marc. Marc has been here in the pirate vicinity more, in kind of a almost a cinematic look because his internet was down and it wasn't quite operating as needed. So we brought Marc back, and what we want to do is get a clear view of Marc and make sure that we have a perspective that we can talk about and share with you. And thank you so much for being here. If you're watching the show live, if you're watching the replay, appreciate you. All the gratitude in the world. Marc and I think there's a connection here, and we really enjoy having conversation. And the Pirate Broadcast always brings interesting people doing interesting things. And I know you're doing a lot of interesting things right now. And I just want to give you a shout out. Your Cloudwater brand is good stuff, and I'm going to order more. And I just want to check in. How are you doing? And welcome back.
Well, it's good to be here. Good to be seen. We could just end the podcast now because now everybody knows what I look like. Yeah. But I'm grateful to be back. And yeah, I mean, we just riffed and had a wonderful conversation, last time, and I think we connected. And it's good to be here. I'm doing okay. As I said in our our preview here, it's an interesting time to be a human being. Yeah. A CEO, a father, a member of community, but we're all learning how to navigate cross waves of so many things, intersections. We want to partake in the positivity of community and promote the harmony that I think I hope all of us want in the world. And we also have business to do, right? And so, how do you stay sensitive and not try too hard? There's nothing to prove here. The authenticity of our brand is what it is, but we also have to pay the bills, right? So
absolutely,
it's a very interesting time, for us and the team to sit around and talk about sensitive topics and viruses and doing business.
Well, and let's dive into that, because a lot of people are being disrupted right now as a result of either the coronavirus and the pandemic and stay-at-home orders. And now, some locations are starting to open up, and they're seeing a direct correlation between that and the incident of cases going up. And so I don't know that we're out of the water with this. And just like any CEO, and especially someone in your arena that is pushing the boundaries of not only one, the product, because you're dealing with a new product that's kind of on the edge of understanding. So you have to educate people on what it is and why it's here and why it's valuable. Not only that, and then on top of it, we have this challenging divide in Black Lives Matter and some of the challenges and the conversations that are taking place around that, and inequality. And it's almost like David and Goliath, and the challenging time of educating people on what it's like to experience this racial divide, or this prejudice, or this bias that we feel or have against either what you're doing, who you are, or what's happening in your world. And as a CEO, how do you navigate through that sea of uncertainty?
Well, I wish there was a handbook, but I think, I think what you default to is really, your root DNA, your ethos. I feel most proud about my brand, our brand, and our team is because it's a really great group of authentic people that care deeply about what's going on. So much so that, we talk as much about, how we participate in, providing support to our Black brothers and sisters. We all have people close to us that have been impacted for years. And this is a very meaningful time for a lot of us. And it's great just to have those open and honest conversations. Some people say, hey, you don't want to talk about that in business. Well, I say bullshit, particularly at a time where, excuse my language, but, this is the time to really express yourself. And at the same time, we have to do business, right? I mean, I don't think any movement or virus wants us to go out of business because we lean too hard one way or another. So it is a delicate balance. And the way you navigate that is just really open and honest, because we don't all have the answers. But when, great people who are caring sit in a room, it's not about a debate who's right or wrong. You tend to find that balance. And, so far, I think we're doing a great job at that.
Well, and I think also, I think you kind of stepped on it, is this idea of understanding. We were talking before the show, and it's really about listening and understanding. What is it that we can do? And it's what is it that we need to change, and how do we feel, and how do we perceive? Because we may be doing something that we're not even aware of because of the environment we were raised in. And it may not be malicious in our approach. However, it may not be perceived as being correct. And so education, I think, has to play a huge part in our society across the board, across all levels. And, just an understanding, and start listening and caring about how people are feeling and being perceived in their lives, because it's, we can all do better. We can all do better. And that's where I default to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot of people who want to do better. And I think there's some people who are conflicted for that exact reason, because they have goodness in their hearts. And we say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
And I don't think it's somebody's fault that they were born white and privileged, and maybe in an atmosphere that didn't afford them diversity or certain culture, and maybe they didn't learn it at home for one reason or another. It's not a knock. And here we are now, having made, significant progress in the world, in the gay community, with women and also people of color, for inclusion. There's a long way to go, but I think there are, there's different, we'll call them factions, ones who really care and are a little confused, ones who are biased for one reason or another, and then just outright, unfortunately racist, who don't have an aperture to opening up to what's going on. And I think educating at those different, kind of levels is very important. And it's great to see how many people are behind this movement, and how many white people are behind this movement and say, hey, we really care. Yeah. And, one of my friends I consider a brother, he's African-American, and we talk all the time. And he said, this feels different. You'll hear that a lot in, the media or social or people being interviewed. This feels different. This feels like a tipping point. I don't think there's a turning back from this. The same way there's no turning back with COVID unless there's a vaccine. And the vaccine for this is, ridding systemic racism at the institutional level, and then helping people understand how they can be part of that community to support it just by giving equality. Nobody's asking for more or less. They just want to, fit in and be included, no special handouts. And I think this, Black Lives Matter sets some people off to think, well, you want more than, me, or you matter more than me. And that's obviously not the case here. And, it takes education and some patience, to be honest.
Well, I did a 2-minute tip the other night where it's like, hey, if this was a catastrophe, some sort of a weather anomaly that came in and caused destruction and damage, there'd be a lot of people out there helping. And it's no different, because it's this long-term kind of undermining of racism that has traveled through decades, centuries. And what I think a lot of people misunderstand is it's not that I want you to have less, is that I just want to be seen as an equal opportunity individual. No black, no white, no color at all. I just want to be equal in what my opportunities are. We just went through this, a few years ago with the Me Too movement, and the fact that, you know, that there's a lot of things that are taking place that should not be taking place.
Correct.
And I think this is a movement where people just want to they want to be heard. They want a voice, and they want to be able to explain and have people understand and listen to what they're doing.
Yep. And I agree. And I think, on the other side of this, you mentioned Me Too. And I think there's lessons to be learned at the institutional level about Me Too in terms of, who's allowed and enabled to do what, right? So if there was a sexual harassment case at a company and it was reported, you would single out that individual and you would discipline them, right? And if a couple of weeks went by and you found out there were a few more, now you start to ask, well, why is it okay that this is happening at this company? What's going on there? So now you start looking at the institutional level. All the people at the Weinstein Company weren't bad people, but for some reason, there was this environment that allowed this to go on where people either aided and abetted because they didn't say anything, they were too scared to say something, but it was a toxic environment. Yeah. And Me Too brought that down, right? And look, change is interesting. The pendulum goes to totally the other side, where I've been in conversations where guys are like, I can't even hire a woman now. That's not sustainable, but that's a natural reaction to like, wait, if I sneeze, I can get in trouble, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to go to meetings alone with a woman.
Yeah, right. And then you find your middle ground. And I think the same thing is in law enforcement. I have family who are police, and you can support Black Lives Matter and racial equality and not also have to, put away with the police. It's an important institution. But at the high institutional levels, there's obviously been enablement for this, and the justice, in the justice system, there's been enablement. So you have to break down at the institutional level, and then pari pursue, it starts to come down where things are acceptable or not, right? And these reforms, and again, defunding the police is kind of that, acute reaction. And I don't want to get into some of those issues today. I think they're still working themselves out. But there are amazing cops out there, and ones I do charity work with, and who are amazing people. And unfortunately, and I speak to them, there are some platform issues here that allow this to go on, and that has to go away. And that's when you find your middle ground.
Well, and I think at the core, we are all individuals. And if we have, as an individual, influence over other people and have, like you have direction and you have the ability and opportunity to direct people in a certain way, and your individual habits and traits and preconceptions are going to drive how you decide what takes place. And that's at all institutional levels. And I think generalization over a group of individuals is a big mistake. And I think same thing in the officers. It's like, there are bad cops, and there are bad people everywhere.
Yep.
There are people that are malicious. They just have no interest in helping others, and they don't want to listen to any other perspective. And those are the exceptions to the rule, not the rule.
Yep. And then look, the media obviously puts accelerant on all this, and is now selling certain headlines the way they sold COVID. And that doesn't mean COVID isn't real. And it doesn't mean that there's issues in police, or it doesn't mean racism isn't real. But, the people make more money and get more energy when there's hating and divide going on. Unfortunately, that's been a major platform in our country, for some time. And if I had a dream, there'd be a middle aisle in this country where, you didn't love Trump, hate Trump. You didn't, just hate Democrats, love Democrats, black, white. There would be some middle ground where we can balance, and that just does not exist. And you can name any institutional debate like gun control. There's no middle aisle, right?
There's no middle aisle.
There is no middle aisle. And I think
the polarization of America has really been, I think it was, I don't know. I think it's increasing. The polar opposites are it's just amplification.
Yep.
Really.
Yep.
So I just want to give, Fred's here in the room. Good morning. How you doing? Absolutely, everyone should be colorblind. Thank you so much. So, and then Dr. Menkip, she asks, "What's this webinar regarding what?" And it's just a conversation, Doctor. It's just a conversation. We're having interesting people. Pirate Broadcast is all about interesting people doing interesting things. So Marc, going forward, we understand, and so as a business owner, what steps have you been taking or thinking about taking or enabling others to take in your organization that allows them to actually have some authority to make some changes, or at least go out into the community and take some active steps in helping others lift themselves up and do something different, be different? I mean,
Yeah.
how does that work for yourself, and how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think a lot about it. I have a very extensive background in, in philanthropy, and I donate what I believe is the most precious thing I have, which is my time. I've been doing that, since I'm in my early 20s, and particularly centered around diversity and underserved, kids and young adults in New York City.
Mhm.
So I take that, call it an institution of giving, very seriously. And when a brand jumps out and says, "Hey, we're going to give, we're going to do," I think that's great. But I have a little extra sensitivity to that, because you can't just give for a day or a week and say, "Hey, look at us." You have to follow it up with action and the proper support and consistency. And so we had this conversation last week, because people are saying, "Hey, let's donate a portion of proceeds, and let's do this and let's do that." And I said, look, I think the way I landed on that is, if you have an individual, if it's Black Lives Matter, we're aligning with a platform called Black Allies Matter. I'll talk about that for a minute. But
Yeah.
if there's something that you feel passionate about, then I think you should make a donation. And if we, what we did for COVID is we just donated, thousands of bottles to the front lines, and didn't write about it, or I'm saying it now, but just by example, we just did it, and it was authentic, and we felt great. And, we got a lot of thank yous that made us feel good. And we came to that conclusion that it was more behind the scenes that we wanted to do this, because, when things like this come up, we also want to be able to help. And so we're figuring that out right now. But the first thing that we wanted to do, which I thought was responsible and everybody should do, is participate in the blackout. Call your social, don't promote, let important voices be heard right now. And as we come out the other end, because things change every day, your feelings change, information changes, then let's find something that, is meaningful to us, that will, if Russ calls me in a week or two, it's not like, yeah, we're done with that promotion or something. It's,
Right.
we've aligned ourselves, and, we have aligned ourselves with a platform that we intend to stay, very involved with. And I want to be involved and to help educate people that fit into the category of, hey, I'm a white person, I accept my privilege, I'm a little conflicted, I don't quite understand, help me to understand. That is my favorite type of person. And I don't know everything, but I've been exposed to some of this for years now, and I have a front row seat to somebody who I consider a brother, and we have very honest conversations. And, I can never fully understand, but I can get close to be able to then articulate that, as a white person to another white person, to just understand that, wow, if this person can understand, maybe I can, right? So that's how we're talking about it as a business, and on the other side, I said yesterday, look, we need to generate sales. We need to pay the bills. So we don't have anything to prove here. If we're authentic and real, all right, nobody's asking us not to stop doing business. Let's get back to business, and I bifurcate that, because sometimes I think it's, like I said, it's dangerous to marry it. And that's kind of how we're proceeding.
Well, I appreciate the effort, because I'm always for the underdog, and you've been dealt a couple of challenging blows here, and I think it's a lot of it, feels like overwhelming, and it's difficult situation. However, it's one of the things that entrepreneurs have to deal with on a regular basis. It's like, this is a challenge. How can we position the company, the organization, the conversations to actually get through this and actually be stronger as a result of it?
Sure.
Because that's the conversation that really needs to happen, is how do we grow from this experience? How do we exceed our expectations as a result of our experience in this?
Yep.
And
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and it's your job and your responsibility as a leader to provide some of that vision. And it's not always crystal clear. And sometimes it takes a listening to the community, listening to the others and what the feedback is, and kind of taking that information in and coming up with a solution. So,
yep. It's a challenge every day. And, we started with COVID, and we made a commitment to ourselves with COVID that, this is a time to be scrappy, creative. We're going to get some battle chops on, and we're going to come out even stronger and better. And we're working on some very exciting things that we're going to be announcing in the next couple of weeks here, that we've had some, I don't want to call it downtime, but we've had, I'm not traveling. We're all kind of in one place. And so I work during the day and I think at night. And so does my team. Yeah. And so, we kind of committed to that. So when George Floyd was murdered and civil unrest started, and this, next, and I'll call it the sea change of the civil rights movement is happening right before our eyes. And, we said, look, we're going to participate in a similar way, right? We're going to be responsible to our ethos, and we're going to be responsible to our P&L, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And
absolutely not.
Yeah, nothing at all. And if we're a nonprofit, then we're focused on that. We're not a nonprofit. We have investors. I have a fiduciary to run this business in the best interest of the business. And, we have heart and soul that, which is a fiduciary to, devote something to our community.
Good morning, Carl Scott. Carl is in Houston. He runs an organization, really a fantastic connector in Houston. Marion LaSalle's in Houston as well. Happy Wednesday, Marion.
Hi, everybody.
She and I have done a lot of training in the world of technology and media convention. And here's a point, bringing up Marion and the fact, Marc, that we have an opportunity to educate people. We are the media now. This show here it wasn't, I didn't have a producer come and reach out to me and say, hey, Russ, do you want to start a show? Although if you want a show, I'll talk to you about it. So it's really the fact that we can all educate and be educated. So Kenyatta, good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I love the fact that Kenyatta is another amazing individual. She's a super connector. She's somebody out in the community all the time, educating, informing, helping, and assisting others in the community. So she's a rock star out there. So she's someone you need to know. And so, Marc, to kind of bring this back to a level of responsibility, I think we really need to. The lessons that I heard you share is that we need to increase our awareness. We need to educate our communities and continue to bring awareness and education to the communities about what I think really it needs to be almost expansive into what prejudice actually is, because I think a lot of people are prejudiced without even knowing what that means, what that can impact others. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think, again, there's this fine lines between innocence and kind of, shading it one way or another. And I see posts on Facebook where they say, hey, what happened to George Floyd was horrible, but what about, black on black crime, or what about statistically this or statistically that? And they don't realize they're fighting the current because they're not comfortable with what's going on, and they're hiding behind some bias or, privilege or whatever. And I'm not here to analyze everybody. Sure. I think a great example is the kneeling of, during the NFL, because as much as I just gave myself all these, toots and whatever, it bothered the hell out of me. Right. Yeah. And in the beginning, And because I had a perspective on it and I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And as time went on and I listened, I started to understand. And I was elated that the NFL came out and said that. I was elated that some other people came out against it and were immediately scorned and forced into that situation to gain perspective. Wait a second. I'm getting this tidal wave of criticism. What's going on here? It's no longer acceptable, right, to just be blind and tone deaf. If you want to, be in society, you got to, almost choose one side or the other. And, like I said to you before, the new minority will become racism, right? And everybody else will be in the human race. And it's just not going to feel comfortable to be that person. But you have to start somewhere and gain perspective. So listening talking about awareness, but as individuals, we really have to open our aperture and be willing to listen and learn and admit there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you know what? I was biased. And just move forward. That's all anybody wants. They're not going to hold it against you unless you're all out racist, to say, you know what? Good for you for growing and accepting it. And, there's a lot of people out there that need that next level of perspective and education.
Well, there's nothing wrong with saying you're wrong.
Right.
Like, I was wrong.
Exactly.
I had, I can't change how I was born or who I came to be. I mean, I'm a product of my experience, right? As we talked about, everyone is a product of their experience. And I believe that, like many people in the world, they every day is a choice. And, it's when you have a choice and you make a choice, and myself, I choose to have gratitude when I wake up. I choose to learn something every day. I choose to improve who I am every single day. And right now I'm choosing to understand what other people are feeling, what other people are doing, and watching this landscape and saying, how does this impact the world? How does it impact me? And how can I contribute? Because if you're not bringing me a solution, you're part of the problem.
Right.
So it's as simple as that. So I just encourage everybody to start bringing a solution to the table, because right now, it doesn't seem like there's a clear answer anywhere except a little bit of kindness, empathy, understanding, and a willingness to learn.
Yep. And, I think people should check out Black Allies Matter. And it's a platform that is really set up to help educate and to build awareness. Mm-hmm. There's no hate on there. There's no you're wrong. There's no and white people shouldn't feel ashamed to be white people. There, could be some certain SAR or, apologies people feel they want to give, but that's not what this is about. This is really about, hey, did you know this about Black history? Did you know the institutional seepage? So you know that the American flag and where things were born, and you might not like the truth and you might not want to accept it, but the facts are there. Mm-hmm. And I think this platform is a gentle dose of that information. They posted something from Michael Che from Saturday Night Live, and there's like a 3-minute video. Watch it. It's hysterical. And he just talks about, Black Lives Matter, and he kind of makes fun of it. And he's like, we just want, civil rights. The gay community asked for equal rights. We're just asking for civil, he just kind of makes it comical. I found myself laughing out loud because it was a really great dose of just, simplifying some of the stuff. It doesn't have to be that serious. It's a serious matter, but learning doesn't always have to be learn it, take it, accept it. It's like a dose of medication. It needs to come in a process. And I think they're doing a great job of really going at it that way, because
mention the site one more time.
It's Black Allies Matter. They're on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah. And it's something that Cloudwater, is participating in and supporting, because we just love the trajectory of, what they're doing. And that feeds into Black Lives Matter. It feeds into this new institutional process, that's being built overnight, which, is obviously here to stay. And we're happy to be a part of it. Yeah.
Well, and I think more and more CEOs and leaders like yourself have to get involved and engaged and participate in the change, because unless we change, you know, it's a dark place to go. So I appreciate and applaud your efforts to make the life of so many a better place to live, a little brighter. So thank you so much, Marc, for doing
Trying
that.
to do our part. I've learned from some great people, and I've learned firsthand from their pain. And so, it's very real to me and very important. And I see my kids. My kids went out to protest. They made their own signs. They're posting on social.
Uh-huh.
Somebody mentioned about everybody should be colorblind. I respectfully disagree. I think we should see color. I think black is a color, brown is a color. We should admire it, accept it, and see it. I think people want to be seen. That's just my humble perspective on it. And my kids have been swimming with friends who are black since they're 2. They don't never ask me about skin color, and they have a different voice than all of us. And it's so interesting to watch this younger generation just get out there and they tilt their heads at us and say, "What the hell are you people doing? What is going on here?" And I love that innocence, but I love the voice of the future because they're growing up without this institutional seepage that a lot of us did. And that's going to break this chain and this process. And I can't wait for them to get older and start running this country and this world, because not that it's not going to change before then, but this will reinforce that, this equality is here to stay.
Yeah. And then just acceptance of who we are. We're all unique. All individuals are unique, and that's what makes the world a beautiful place is our unique gifts, our message, and our ability to help others and make change happen. So Marc, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I know we're over, and I know you're a busy guy doing lots of great things. So I just want to appreciate and applaud Cloudwater, and I love this stuff, actually, Marc.
Thank you. Well, we're proud of the brand, but I'm glad we talked about something that's, I think it's bigger than all of us, and I appreciate that. And
I think it's bigger than the brand, right?
Yeah, and I hope the viewers, sometimes you do very specific podcasts, but this is important. I hope people got something out of this, and some leaders can understand, what it's like to navigate through this. Just be yourself. You'll do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Yep. Thanks, my brother.
So let's keep on the radar and make sure that as you progress through the navigation process, let's keep in touch and make sure that we give you updates and share those updates with people.
I'm happy to. Love talking to you. Thank you so much for having me back.
Thank you so much.
All right,
everyone. Thank you so much for watching the Pirate Broadcast. I know and love each and every one of you, and just come in, join the pirate community. Stay involved and engage and help each other out, because, as I always say, kindness is cool, smiles are free, and you enjoy the day.
Take care.
Take care. Thank you for joining the Pirate Broadcast. If you found this content valuable, please like, comment, and share it across your social media channels. I would love the opportunity to help others grow in their business. The Pirate Syndicate is a platform where you show up, we produce the show. It's that easy. If you want to be seen, be heard, and be talked about, join the Pirate Syndicate today.